Hello and welcome again to my Physics Online video lecture series. Today's video we're going to be talking about the simple pendulum as a simple harmonic oscillator. So we will get into that in today's video. You will recall at this point a few of the things that we've learned so far in discussing simple harmonic oscillators. The most basic is that the simple harmonic oscillator will obey the equation A plus omega squared x equals 0. This is the simple harmonic oscillator equation. And note that this can also be something like alpha plus omega squared theta is equal to 0. That's also valid. This is what you would get if instead of looking at linear motion, you're looking at rotational motion. The omega squared is related to the period of oscillation. Namely, the angular frequency is 2 pi divided by the period of oscillation. And then, of course, this omega term is determined by actual physical parameters of the system. Thus, for a spring harmonic oscillator, omega squared was the spring force constant K divided by the mass at the end of the spring, M. And then last but not least, the position versus time equation will obey a sinusoidal relationship with time. That is, position is some amplitude times, let's say, the cosine of the angular frequency times time plus some initial offset phase. This can, of course, be expressed differently by using complex exponentials or by using both a sine and a cosine term, or by using an exponential term with a complex amplitude. But this is kind of our preferred way for introductory physics because we have here position, we have maximum position, we have angular frequency, time, and some offset phase. And as with the equation up here where we've said A plus omega squared x is 0, we might also convert over into rotational system. Now, the reason why I keep mentioning the rotational system is that today what we're considering is the simple pendulum. And the simple pendulum basically consists of a long, lightweight, essentially massless string with a small, massive bob attached to one end and free to swing back and forth. Okay, so the relevant parameters for this system would therefore include the length of the pendulum, which is taken to the center of mass of the bob. And again, if the bob is very small compared to the string's length, then effectively this is the length of the string. We have the mass, of course, and the relevant parameter that we might be measuring is the angle theta offset from the equilibrium position. So this system could be cast in terms of theta and alpha. For small angular displacements, we can say that this right here represents my displacement x, either way, and it should be apparent that x is equal to L times the sine of theta, and if theta is many times less than 1 radian, then we can say something like x is approximately L times theta. All right, now we might also ask what is the acceleration of this pendulum? And for that, we can do one of two things. Again, we can look at angular acceleration, which comes from torque. Recall that the angular acceleration alpha is given from the equation tau is equal to I times alpha. And if we were to proceed that way, we would also have to recall that torque is equal to F times R times sine of whatever angle is between F and R. And we'd have to figure out what the moment of inertia is for essentially a massless string with a mass at the end. It'd look like mr squared. The linear acceleration approach is to say that the sum of forces is mass times acceleration, and our sum of forces, we basically have gravity acting downward, we have a tension force acting along the string, and essentially this tension force has a y component and an x component, and the y component effectively cancels with gravity, whereas the x component is the net force. And so this ends up looking like force tension along x is m times a. All right, well, we still need to figure out what the tension in x is equal to. We know from our diagram that the tension in y is approximately m times g. Now I've labeled here an angle phi, so since the tangent of phi is fty over ftx, we can substitute these terms in here, and what you get is mg over ma, and of course the two m's cancel. However, I still need to determine the value of phi. Looking back at my triangle, I can see that I have a right triangle that has phi in one corner, theta in the other. So I can always instead choose the tangent of theta, and it's going to be sort of the reciprocal of the tangent of phi. And so that will give me a divided by g. Now, we've already established that theta is many times less than 1 radian. And it turns out that the tangent of theta is approximately equal to theta if theta is many times less than 1 radian. Now you can try this out at home with a calculator by basically taking your calculator out, pausing the video, putting yourself into radian mode, and inserting whatever numbers you'd like that are at least a factor of, let's say, 3 or 4 smaller than 1. So like try 0.2 or 0.25 or 0.1 or 0.07 or something like that. Make sure you're in radian mode, take the sine of it, and then also take the tangent of it, and you'll find that both the sine and the tangent are very close to the original number you started with. So we combine these equations. All right, so we have two approximations for theta. This top one really could say theta is approximately x over L. The bottom one says that theta is approximately a over g. If you combine those two things together, you get x over L is approximately a over g. Now, there's one thing to note, which is that over here, I just kind of defined an x. But if you look at the x that I've defined, it's actually on sort of the negative side. And so there's actually kind of a missing minus sign in this whole equation. And so there really needs to be a minus sign in here for consistency. What that does is that I can now add everything to one side, and I now have a over g plus x over L is equal to 0. If I multiply everything by g, then I have a plus g over L times x is equal to 0. And if this term right here is defined as omega squared, then I have a plus omega squared x is equal to 0. But that's just my same equation that I started with up here for the simple harmonic oscillator. And this is also actually kind of keeping track of the directions as well as everything else. So what we found here is that omega is equal to, or omega squared is equal to g divided by L for the pendulum, the simple pendulum harmonic oscillator. It also follows that the equation for the simple pendulum must follow the same basic equation as we had for position versus time for a spring, namely that my x should look like my maximum x times something like a cosine of omega t plus phi naught. Now we can change this in terms of the pendulum system to be essentially L times the sine of the maximum angle that we've chosen times the cosine of the square root of g divided by L times time plus some initial phase offset. and that gives you a description of what the position is doing as a function of time. Okay, so we want to know what the expected period of oscillation is for this system. And the period we've said is 2 pi divided by omega, or actually we said omega is 2 pi divided by the period, but you can multiply both sides by period and divide both sides by omega to get our answer. So that is 2 pi divided by the square root of L over G, or in other words, 2 pi square root L over G. All right, so now we plug our numbers in, and this is 2 pi times the square root of 3.0 meters divided by 9.8 meters per second squared. And so if you put all that into your calculator, you'll get about 3.476. So let's call that 3.5 seconds. All right, that's all for today's video. Hopefully you learned something from it, and as always, thanks for watching.